Good evening. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome you all here to tonight's May 23rd, 2018 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. We welcome those of you that are here in person at the Town Hall Auditorium, but we also welcome those of you that are watching either on digital cable channel 1303 on Spectrum or streaming us live on the Town of Brighton webpage on our YouTube page. However you choose to participate, we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to share all the materials that we do. So if you're here in the room, we have our agenda and all the supporting documents, all the same material that we have on our computer screens in a folder on the back table. If you are watching at home, you can go to the town's webpage, www.townofbrighton.org. And again, the same packet that we have up on our screens here, you can bring up on your screen. The agenda, the resolutions we'll be considering tonight, and all of the supporting material. In a moment, we're going to go into the open forum, and that's an opportunity for anybody here to question or comment on any matter, whether or not it's on the agenda tonight. But during the open forum, we also welcome feedback from people who are watching us remotely. And when we get to that point, we'll tell you how to do that. But first, let's start with a pledge to the flag. I'll ask Councilmember Warner to lead us tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Just a couple of other announcements. If you hear the town hall emergency alarm go off, please exit the building immediately, either through the door to my right. If you take that door, turn right, go down the stairs, out the rear entrance of town hall, and away from the building. Or you can go through either of the double doors in the back of this room, through the lobby, out the main front entrance of Town Hall, down the steps, and again, away from the building. Now, if you are watching us live on digital cable channel 1303, and you experience either problems with the audio or the video, please contact Spectrum at 756-5000. That's 756-5000. We have no presentations or recognitions at the moment, so we will be going into the open forum. Now, as I was starting to mention, the open forum is your opportunity to address the board on any matter, whether or not it's on the agenda. I would note that tonight we do have one public hearing on our proposed parks local law. And if you're here to comment on the parks local law, and you would like your comments to be part of the record, and I hope you would, please wait until we call that public hearing. It'll be one of the first things we do, and you'll have an opportunity to share your comments on the record at that point. Again, if you are watching us remotely and would like to participate in the open forum, you can do so by calling 303-3060. That's 303-3060, and someone will take your call and relay it up to me. In addition, if you are deaf or hearing impaired and would like to participate in the open forum, you can call our TDD line at 784-5205. Again, our TDD line to participate in the open forum, if you're deaf or hearing impaired, 784-5205. In any event, we welcome your comments during the open forum, and I call that open forum period open. Is there anyone that would like to address the board during the open forum? I know we have one person that I believe will be coming in just a moment that did want to address the board in the open forum, but it looks like there is nobody here right now that would like to address the board during the open forum? And it wasn't you, Steve. Why don't you check, Ken? Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep it together here.
You and me both.
The last time I appeared at this podium at a town board meeting was over 8 years ago, when Supervisor Frankel introduced me and welcomed me as a new employee with the town of Brighton. Now tonight, as I head off to explore a new chapter in my career, I look at all of you and I'm reminded of what I've been a part of that makes saying goodbye tonight so hard. Therefore, I'm not going to say goodbye, but what I will say is thank you. Thank you to the members of the town board for your support and all that I've learned from each one of you. Staff. They say it is difficult to find a friend amongst a colleague, but personally I consider myself very fortunate because I have found friendship amongst many of you. Thank you for that and for making my job easier by being the best at what you do. Town Attorney Ken Gordon, thank you for pushing me to strive for greatness, no matter how tired I was, and how much easier it would have been for me to just be mediocre at times. Thank you. Town Clerk Dan Amon, huge thank you for reminding me what's important in life, and to always remember to look for the humor even in the toughest of times. Supervisor Mailing, this is where it's going to get tough, because I don't want to say goodbye. And just saying thank you for all you've done for us and this community either just doesn't cut it or it seems not sufficient. And you already know how grateful I am that you believed in me and trusted me enough to consider me as an equal partner here at the town of Brighton. So my parting message will not be to you, Bill, but to the residents of the town of Brighton. Although I'm excited about my new future and what it holds, I'm even more excited for your future. Great things are in store for the town of Brighton under the continued leadership of Supervisor Maley, not just because of his untiring commitment to the job, but to his sincere desire to listen to all who want to be heard. And he has this remarkable ability to process exorbitant amounts of information so that he can lead and guide the town board to make not only the best decisions for Brighton today, but for Brighton's tomorrow. Thank you, Brighton. It's been an honor to serve all of you. Thank you. See, this is how it's done. Thank you. Thank you. I got this.
It's all right. Clean me up a little.
And got those flowers out front.
You're not supposed to block the garden?
Here's about your beautification project. I think there they are right there.
Mary Ann, there really are no words to express my gratitude for the work you have done, but so much more. So much of what all of us have been able to do, but certainly so much of what I have been able to do, is a result of your support, but so much more than that. Your feedback, your ideas, your energy. I just can't begin to say how valuable you have been in terms of government. But as you said, there is so much more than that. Your friendship, all that you have meant, all of the extra effort, all that you have done without ever any doubt, any reservation. You've done what needs to be done, and you've done it well. You've done it with a smile, and it is not goodbye. You're right. But you will be missed tremendously, not only by me, but I can't imagine anybody else will miss you more than I will. But you interact with the people of the town of Brighton every day. You pick up that phone and people are calling with a question, with a problem, every now and then with something nice to say, and those are nice too. But a lot of the times, those people that are calling with something nice to say are doing so because of something you have done. They may not even know it's because it's something that you have done. But we all wish you the very, very best. We know you've got an exciting new opportunity that you just couldn't say no to. And
Thank you for being excited for me. I'll be close by, so lunch.
and
Thank
you know,
you.
on Wednesday nights,
No,
7 o'clock Wednesday
I'm
nights.
busy. I'm
there's-
very busy on Wednesday nights. Everyone.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Right, the last day.
I hope there's nobody else that wants to address the board during the open forum, other than to, I know everybody that's dealt with Mary Ann. Just, she's been very special. But we will move on to the agenda, and can I have a motion to approve that agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Can I have a motion to approve and file the minutes for the April 25th and May 9th, 2018 town board meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. As I mentioned before, we do have one public hearing tonight. It's on the proposed 2018 Parks local law. I'll ask the town clerk, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Supervisor Mealy, the notice was printed in the May 10th edition of the Brighton Pittsford Post.
And posted outside on the board. Thank you. Given that notice has been given, I declare this public hearing open. This proposed local law really stems from a number of factors, but in particular, in part at least, it stems from a nice problem, but a problem nonetheless. The problem is that we have some extraordinary parks in Brighton, and that doesn't sound like a problem, but it is if those parks are, as we have said many times, as we've talked about this law and other things that we can do, if our parks are being loved to death, they're being harmed, even by our love. So what we're trying to do with this law, and I would also add with some policy, some administrative decisions that our park superintendent, Matt Beeman, has and will be making. Our goal, and it's a goal that is particularly, although not exclusively, focused on Corbett's Glen, because Corbett's Glen really is such a jewel. And I think more than most of our parks is both environmentally fragile, particularly in its most popular areas, and its popular areas are really, really popular, and popular with people from throughout the area. So it was with that in mind that we held meetings in our Public Works Committee to discuss it, in our Community Services Committee to discuss, and I had convened an advisory committee relating to Corbett's Glen that Dennis Adams, who's here with us tonight, chaired, and that group came up with some suggestions, some of which are incorporated in the changes in the law, some of which are being suggested and proposed either in new policies or new signage that Matt Beeman, our park superintendent, has developed. So that's just a little background, and at this time, I would invite anybody in the audience that would like to address the board concerning this proposed 2018 Parks Law to please come to the podium. If you would, state your name and address and speak for the record. Dennis, come on up.
I'm Dennis Adams. I live at 66 Glen Road. Well, obviously, since it's my council that developed a lot of this, I'm very much in favor of these proposals. And I just wanted to add a couple of things of my own, which are not incorporated in our recommendations. One is that we adopt what is a fairly standard leash law length in the U.S., which is most commonly 5 feet and never more than 6. The most common lengths are in the 5 to 5.5 foot lengths, and leashes are not allowed to be longer than that. This standard also exists worldwide, where leashes are required to be no more than 1.5 meters in length. So, you know, this is one thing that we have not done and which is not mentioned in the law, and which I would encourage you to consider. The other thing has to do with the accessibility of our parks. And certainly one of the things about our parks that has caused problems is that they're great. and we've really had a surfeit of people in many areas. Most nature parks do not allow dogs at all. Both our nature parks are an exception to this. Most parks have some restrictions on dogs, and many places in the U.S. and worldwide have taken what appears to me to be a fairly dramatic step in banning dogs from all their public parks. And I certainly don't advocate that. But I notice that a significant number of people are afraid of dogs. And I tried on the internet to research it and try to get some percentages and failed. The estimates range all over the place. The only statistic I did come away with is that fear of dogs is the most treated phobia in the U.S. So I would suggest that we set aside a park or a major portion of one of our parks as a dog-free zone to accommodate an unknown but probably significant portion of Brightonians who are disturbed by dogs. So that's all. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Dennis. And you're right, although this proposed law does not specifically, it does not ban dogs. You have certainly, in your neighbors, have made it clear to me, made it clear to your colleagues on the Corbett's Glen Advisory Group, that there are too many irresponsible dog owners using our parks. You find plastic bags that are full. The only thing that's worse than just letting the dog go is leaving it in the plastic bag, which does not, plastic bags are forever. We have made it clear that dogs, like people, are not allowed, particularly in the water at Corbett's Glen. And why have we done that? Because one of our biggest problems at Corbett's Glen is erosion of the banks, and the erosion is caused by people clambering down into the water. There are safety issues, but there are also environmental issues with that. That has been the law, by the way, that people are not allowed in the water. And so one of the areas as we reviewed this proposal was to engage the police department and really I know our Parks Department people are spending more and more time, particularly in Corbett's Glen, but our goal was to have this law adopted before Memorial Day, so we could get signage, and Matt's done a great job with some of the signage. The philosophy was not to have punitive sounding signs, but to be part of our signage to be an educational process. And Matt did admit that this phrase wasn't original to him, but he's going to incorporate a phrase in some of these signs that I thought was a great one. I hope I'm quoting it directly, accurately. Vegetation grows by the inch, but is trampled by the foot. And I hope that will remind people how important it is to stay on marked trails, because we've seen our vegetation, particularly at Corbett's Glen, trampled by the feet of people and of animals. I will say that we hope that this law and the increased attention will improve the behavior. We send dogs to behavior school. Maybe some of the people ought to be going to behavior school as well. We hope this will encourage people. These parks are carry in, carry out, and that includes anything that your dog or other animal leaves. We don't want to take more extreme measures, although I will say there is a dog park, a Monroe County dog park, less than a mile from Corbett's Glen with a water feature. That is the place that dog owners who want their dogs to be in the water should go. Corbett's Glen is not the place that people who want their dogs in the water to go. And neither one is a place to leave anything that your dog leaves behind. So we're not intending this law to be punitive, but we do plan on enforcing the provisions with the help of the police department. And we hope that we will see a marked improvement, not only in the debris that's left behind, but also in the condition of our stream banks and other environmentally sensitive parts of our parks. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Judy.
Judy Schwartz, 179 Ashbourne Road. I think it's sad that we have to have this, but I'm glad we do, or will have it. Corbett's Glen is a jewel. I heard you say that you're going to not be punitive and so on. However, my fear is, and my fear about it, no, not a fear, but my concern is that we have these ordinances, but if they're not enforced, we might just as well not have them. And I heard you say no punitive, measures and so on. But my concern is if you come on soft and easy in the beginning, people are going to say, it doesn't really matter, we can still do it. But if people know that this is really real from the outset, then they're going to say, oh, we really have to change our ways.
Let me be clear, because what I meant when I said we won't be punitive is we're not going to ban dogs right
Okay,
now.
okay,
But we are going to enforce this law.
okay,
And our police officers can't be in every park at every time, and our
Right.
parks people can't be in every park at every time. But we will enforce this law. There are fines. They are not small fines.
okay,
And we expect people to comply with the law.
Right.
And if not, it will be enforced.
Judy, I can assure you, if this law is adopted, after the signage, there will be an education component. We did that last year, Dennis, with the dog owners that were allowing their dogs to go off-leash, and we went to an enforcement phase.
Good.
We will phase in an enforcement phase. I think it's appropriate that we go through an education phase to announce the intent of this law, to talk about what the goal of the law is, and then we will enforce it. There is a structure in place for that.
good, that's good. First of all, I never thought we'd ever acquire Corbett's Glen. I worked on that with friends of Oscar, remember, way back when. And now we have it, and it's a shame, that it's starting to go, so I hope that we can keep it at least where it is and maybe go back up a
Oh,
bit.
we want to bring it,
Back?
we really want to bring it back.
That would be
Dennis
wonderful.
has been a wonderful chronicler
Okay, good.
of the conditions, and I'm hoping to see, I've seen some of Dennis's before and after pictures now, and I'm hoping in another year or two, Dennis will be taking some pictures that look a lot like the before
Good.
pictures.
Because if anybody will, he's the one who will do it, so
Absolutely.
thank you. Okay.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this matter?
I'd like to thank Dennis and Ray for their work on the Corbett's Glen Advisory Board and also on the Citizens Advisory Board for Parks and Recreation, Ray. Dennis.
And Dennis on the conservation.
And on the Conservation Board as
yeah.
well, excuse me, yes, thank you, Bill. But the tolerance of the folks down there on Glen Road has been remarkable. If we've opened up what once seemed a private park for you folks, and have been very generous about your sharing it, but also giving us the feedback necessary to preserve just a beautiful, beautiful park. And I hope that this is going to make a difference. The major focus here is to make it clear that dogs, whether on leash or not on leash, are not allowed in the water. We've always known that people are not allowed in the water, and this is going to be enforced. And I hope the community knows that, and that the word spreads even beyond that, because it seems that the majority of the people actually using the park are not Brighton residents. So it's going to have an impact and the necessity of having a much broader communication effort as we educate folks here. But I don't think it'll take much with some firm enforcement. I think we're going to see a change of behavior. It's going to take a long time for that bank to come back, though. We've lost a lot of ground, literally, along that stream bed. And Dennis, I've enjoyed sharing a podium with you and Robin and presenting that to various groups in the community. Again, thanks, Ray, and thanks, Dennis.
On a related note, I would note that we will also plan, although we are not doing so tonight, but we will also plan on setting a public hearing in the not-too-distant future on a law that will prohibit smoking in our parks. So I just want to let folks know about that. We will be setting that public hearing at a soon-to-be-announced future date. Ken, were you looking to?
Yep. Thank you, Supervisor. I just wanted to note for the board that in your packet tonight, in addition to the text of the local law and the resolution, you'll find a proposed negative declaration drafted by Ramsey Boehner as the Environmental Liaison Officer, dated May 23rd, finding that there would not be any negative environmental impact from adopting this proposed local law, and that's pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act.
Is there a problem hearing his microphone? Is that what I was hearing?
I was afraid it was just me, so I was trying to check.
Maybe that mic is,
I can hear you.
there you go. Okay. All right.
Negative declaration is what I
Seeker.
was talking about,
Seeker.
that there is one.
Good.
That's it.
Is there any further discussion on this law, either from the public or from members of the board? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Can I have a motion to act on the resolution in your packet? Robin?
With regard to the 2018 Parks Local Law, I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you again. As Chris said, thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Ray. And really thanks to the other members of the committee that couldn't be here tonight and the other committees that have looked at this. Okay, we'll now go to communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file our communications?
So moved.
Second.
Tonight, we do have correspondence. Actually, this probably, we should have gotten this in the record of the Parks local law. But we do have correspondence from Jeff Vincent concerning Corbett's Glen, and at least indirectly relating to the law. We have a communication from the Town Sustainability Oversight Committee thanking the town board for our support of legislation addressing the impact of climate change. You'll recall a couple of meetings ago, we indicated support with some caveats, with some concerns, but we indicated some support for at least the concept of legislation enacting a revenue-neutral carbon fee and dividend system. Our concerns were, one, is it really revenue neutral? Is it equitable? Will it affect people at different income levels? But it also, we were very concerned about the impact of taxpayers in Brighton, and in particular, the fact that the proposed legislation does not recognize municipalities as receiving the dividend struck us as an inequitable provision of the law. We were also concerned about the impact of the fee on the tax cap, because in year one, the potential increase in expense to the town would be significant, and it would be ongoing in future years, increasing each year. It's for that reason, really, that it's so important that if there were to be a carbon fee and dividend system, that one, the town receive a dividend back, and two, that the tax cap be revised, the state tax cap be revised to reflect the impact of such legislation on the town. That's down the road, because we do believe in sustainability. We do believe in the importance of federal legislation. It has to be federal. There are things we can and we will do at the local level, but it is important that we stop the backsliding. Frankly, we've been backsliding in Washington for the last 18 months. That's got to stop, and instead, we really need to recommit to sustainability as a national imperative, not a goal, an imperative. So we got that correspondence from the Oversight Committee. There's correspondence from the Rochester Coalition Against Human Trafficking, thanking me for attending an event that they held recently. There's correspondence from Senator Robach to Bill Carpenter the CEO of the Rochester Genesee Regional Transportation Authority, concerning the impact of the so-called Reimagine RTS draft plan on transit service in the town of Brighton. As soon as I read the plan, I had grave concerns about what appear to be some dramatic cutbacks in service along Elmwood Avenue, as well as service that would be affecting the University of Rochester and RIT, among others. And again, instead of backsliding, we should be going in the other direction. We address concerns about traffic. We address concerns about equity. Transit, particularly transit to the region's largest employer, the U of R, affects both equity and environmental traffic issues. We should have more. We should have incentives to encourage people to use transit. Frankly, right now, the pricing is a pretty powerful incentive. You can get to the university for $1 if there's service. If there's service. Service that involves taking a bus down Monroe Avenue to downtown Rochester and then back out to the University of Rochester. That's really not viable service. So I have communicated with Mr. Carpenter, and there will be additional discussions that he and I will be having. But I want to let the community know that I feel very strongly about the maintenance and really the enhancement of transit service in Brighton. One of the things you're going to see very soon in the draft Town of Brighton Comprehensive Plan, Envision Brighton, are recommendations relating to transit, shuttle-type transit along Monroe Avenue and perhaps other heavily trafficked corridors. We can't go in the other direction here. So we're going to be talking about this issue. I encourage anyone who has a concern, particularly those of you that are already riding the bus, or people that would like to ride the bus. And you know, my issue isn't, I do think that looking at ridership, that 60-person buses may not be the right answer, but eliminating service altogether is definitely not the right answer. There's an approach that needs to be followed by by RTS. I do think, by the way, it is important that the university and other large employers, RIT, MCC, continue to be a part and play an even bigger part of supporting transit. One of the things that surprised me, I remember saying this at a meeting the first year I was in office, the biggest source of revenue for RTS is not those dollars that people put in the fare box. The biggest source of revenue comes from employers who provide payments to RTS in exchange for service. Now, if that's going to be the structure, so be it, because those do provide incentives by keeping the fares low. One of the things we've said as we look at incentive zoning projects, and we've been looking at these in terms of the current map, is that we require, if someone goes in with an incentive zoning project in an area that doesn't have transit service, to make a commitment to provide the funding to maintain or to provide transit service to those locations. That's going to become even more important if RTS cuts back on service. So this is a really important issue. I appreciate Senator Robach passing along, really his correspondence simply passes along correspondence that he's been getting. And I have made Mr. Carpenter aware not only of my own personal concern with the plan as it now stands, but also that I'm hearing from other people. So I want to encourage you. Let RTS know. If you like bus transit in Brighton, if you think that's an important amenity, tell them why. If you think so because it's how you get to work, tell them so. If you think it's important because of environmental concerns or traffic concerns, please let them know. I want RTS to understand how important mass transit is to the entire Rochester area and to Brighton in particular. It helps us address so many community goals that we need to continue to move forward with that. Finally, we have correspondence signed by Heather O'Donnell on behalf of Citizens for East Avenue Bike Lanes concerning an issue that we have talked about in the past, which is the configuration of bike lanes and/or shoulders and/or the traffic lanes on East Avenue, both in Brighton and in Pittsford. We have a motion to receive and file those communications. Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll to receive and file those.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Committee reports. Robin, Community Services.
Thanks, Bill. The Community Services Committee met on Wednesday, May 16th, 2018, at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Department. During our open forum period, Sue Hughes-Smith joined us from the Rochester People's Climate Coalition to clear up some common misconceptions about community choice aggregation, since it is a complicated issue that bears some explanation. She shared with us some materials to better explain how a CCA works within New York's unique energy marketplace. In particular, she explained how renewable energy generation is tracked through New York State, or by New York State, through a system of credits in order to ensure that it is legitimately sourced from renewable power generation and that those credits are properly accounted for. This allows the consumer to have confidence that the energy that they are paying for is sourced from where distributors claim that it is generated. We discussed the New York State classification mechanism administered by the New York Generation Attribute Tracking System, or NIGATS, and we also had a comparison of 3 available CCA plans and discussed the costs and benefits related with those. On continuing business, Matt Beeman discussed some of the park issues that we have in play right now. The Brighton Town Park is undergoing some renovations through the Community Development Block Grant funding that was made available through the county. The windows and roof replacement portion of the project has been completed, and the hardscape is now being installed. We'll move forward with automatic doors and openers, and then the replacement of pavements and sidewalks will ensue. We anticipate completion of the project by late August. As Bill mentioned earlier, we discussed a proposed smoking and vaping law to ban smoking in our parks. We had some questions with regard to vaping and making sure that the law did include all types of smoking. We're looking forward to setting a public hearing to discuss the implementation of the law. And finally, we discussed the dredging of Buckland Park. We did encounter some issues with regard to that area that needs dredging being in a federally protected wetland. So we're going to have some ongoing investigation with regard to that. We also talked about our recreation programs. Our non-resident registration began for all programs on May 15th. And in addition to that, now that it is this season, we discussed our outdoor pool, particularly maintenance of the building, both in short-term, long-term staffing and repairs. We have pricing estimate for repairs to our outdoor pool right now, and we're looking at whether we need to add any of those repairs to the capital improvement plan if it does rise to that level. We hope to gather information regarding the immediate costs of interim repair versus the cost of a capital improvement. Had an update on our winter's farm market. We obtained our architectural drawings, but due to a lackluster response to the bid schedule has been extended by 2 weeks to allow for more bids to come in on the project. The Phase 1 funding deadline for the project is spring 2019. Finally, we did talk about our Corbett's Glen Advisory Council recommendations and the changes in our parks law related to that. And we reviewed some signage for the parks and the different areas that those signs would be installed. As Bill mentioned, we have one sign towards the entrance that helps engage the public in helping us protect the habitat in the park, and we have the wording available. That'll be online with the minutes. We had our 2018 annual clean sweep debrief. Our annual clean sweep was held on Saturday, May 12th. It was a very successful event. We had increased participation from the high school, which also helped us with their climate club. We had over 300 participants this year, and the event functioned smoothly despite a few raindrops and a little bit of trouble with our food service. But we do appreciate your stepping up, Councilmember Werner, and also Katie Titler from our rec department, and volunteer Sarah Silva.
Pizza team.
I'm sorry.
The pizza team.
Yes, the pizza team. We also had our semi-annual document shredding and electronics recycling event on May 19th. We recycled over 11,000 pounds of paper, which we received a nice report from Eco Green Park about how much money that saved in the system by dint of recycling that material as opposed to it ending up elsewhere. We had an update with regard to our community choice aggregation law. We passed the enabling law, and the next step in the process is begin the selection process for a CCA administrator. In the interest of receiving an objective presentation, we did talk about perhaps Matt Halliday, who's in charge of the Clean Energy Communities Program out of David Zorn's office at the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council, present to the board to see if we could get the lay of the land. We have had an update with regard to our beautification committee. We are now accepting applications for the committee. But Matt Beeman also met with Mike Guyon and Tim Anderson regarding the Parks Department, helping to direct or coordinate with volunteers for clean sweep types of projects once that committee is formed. Finally, under new business, we did have Mitch Nellis talk about Color Brighton green T-shirt sale. With this green program, they're installing trees throughout the town, and part of the clean sweep work actually involved installing 12 new trees in French Road Elementary School, and quite impressive shade trees. So installing shade trees is part of our efforts to green Brighton. We finally had a update on the Veterans Memorial sign. Matt was able to get pricing for a sign to be added to the existing Buckland House sign. It came in at a cost of $999, and we expect to install the sign prior to Memorial Day.
At least we hope to.
Yes.
If it gets in, and I don't know whether we know whether it's gotten in.
Right, as long as it does come in.
It's tight. If it doesn't get in before Memorial Day, it will be in shortly after Memorial Day.
And that concludes the minutes. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, June 20th, 2018, at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School. As always, we welcome members of the public to join us.
And since we're talking about Memorial Day, I do want to invite the entire community. Memorial Day, there's nothing wrong with firing up the grill and, some cooking or maybe a game of softball or something like that. But we want everybody to remember why it is we celebrate Memorial Day, and that is, of course, to honor the men and women who gave their life for our freedoms, for our country, and particularly those with a connection to Brighton. So as we do each year, we will have our Memorial Day ceremony out at the Brighton Veterans Memorial in Buckland Park, 2 o'clock on Monday, Memorial Day. And I really want to invite everybody, whether or not you're a veteran, chances are you know a veteran, maybe you have one in your family, but especially for our residents who are veterans, there are a couple days every year that we want to say thank you and memorializing those who gave their life or who suffered serious injury, but it is an opportunity as well to say thank you to their comrades who came home and have done so much for us. So 2 o'clock, Veterans Memorial in Buckland Park on Westfall Road. We ask that if you're driving over there, we try to reserve the Buckland House parking for people, handicap parking, people who can't walk as far, but there is, of course, lots of parking in the main Buckland Park parking lot, as well as, that's really where you probably ought to park, in that main lot. So we'll see you on Memorial Day. Thanks for your report, Robin. Jason, Finance.
Yes, Bill, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Tuesday, May 15th. Each of the items discussed in the committee appears on tonight's agenda and will be voted on later in tonight's meeting. The additional item that we discussed was the summer calendar. During the summer, the FASC will be meeting on Wednesdays at 8:30 in the morning. So the date and time of our next meeting will be on Wednesday, June 6th at 8:30 in the morning in the Stage Conference Room here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks, Jason. Public Safety. Jim is not here. I don't know if anybody has a report to.
We hadn't had a meeting.
And we haven't had a
since,
meeting,
and the
so.
next one won't be till, is it first week of June? Is it
Yeah.
first Tuesday? Or
June,
second Tuesday.
June 12th, Mark, is that, June 12th at 0800 hours.
0800.
Thank you. Public Works, Chris.
Public Works, our next meeting is June 5th at 9 o'clock. And just wanted to mention that citizens sent an email in, and please, we welcome them, expressing concerns about debris in roadways in the neighborhoods, and particularly with commercial jobbers that do lawn maintenance and so forth, and about how best the town should address that. And we've put that on the agenda and expect to have a discussion on June the 5th at 9.
And that is an area that I want to discuss. Mike and I have had some discussions about it. We have some thoughts, but more importantly, we want to hear other people's thoughts right now and try to synthesize. I do think that as a community, we are seeing more and more people using landscape services. I think there are a variety of reasons for that. And that's frankly an opportunity. If more of those landscape services were hauling their own debris away, our crews could get around the town more quickly. That, people say our crews don't get around town as quick as they used to. That may somewhat be anecdotal. Some of it's a function of storm conditions and the like that we've had in recent years. But at the same time, there may be some truth to that. But if because of landscape companies and, other reasons, I don't know, HGTV, who knows, that people are putting more debris out, that does slow us down. That means it will take longer. We want to keep getting the message out. Please, in my neighborhood, in other neighborhoods, I see little piles. Some of them are so small, the crews have to wonder whether they're really to be picked up or if they just fell that way. If you have just a small pile, bag it, put it in a trash can. But please, it's more attractive, it gets picked up quicker, it avoids drainage issues that can be caused when debris drains off into storm drains. There's all sorts of reasons we want to encourage people, not again, as we were talking about earlier with the law, we don't want to compel people right now to bag. Many towns, a lot of towns don't even pick up yard debris. Some places you pay to haul your own debris to a town dump. So we are an exception in picking up debris, and within that group, we are an exception in that we don't require people to bag their debris or their leaves, but it really helps. Ken?
When you say bag, what do you mean by that, Supervisor?
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, boy. Not plastic. Those big brown paper bags that you can buy at hardware stores, lawn and garden stores, not plastic. And again, remember, not grass clippings. Grass clippings must be left on your lawn. We will not pick up grass clippings. We want to preserve the space in our landfill, and they're good for your lawn if you leave them there. So, Mike, did I forget anything?
No, I think you got it with Ken's help there. I think we're.
Yeah, I need Ken's help.
Thanks, Ken.
That happens.
So, meeting June 5th.
Thank you.
At 9 o'clock.
Great. New business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $883,399.36. Notable claims include to Beam Mac Sales and Service in the amount of $185,806.89, representing the purchase of a new Mack dump truck in accordance with our CIP and a budgeted purchase. Also to Villager Construction in the amount of $199,771.50 for the water main extension down at the landfill, less the retainage. Also to Dell Marketing in the amount of $9,513.80, representing purchase of computers and related equipment for the library. And also to Plant Concepts Incorporated in the amount of $1,366, representing Kirk Astor, Monroe Avenue Spring cleanup supplies, and mulch for the Rose Garden here at Town Hall. That was mulched very nicely during Clean Sweep. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer.
Aye. Chris?
Next item is for approval to hire Bradley J. Clouston as a Brighton police officer effective June 9th, 2018, contingent upon successful completion of all Monroe County Civil Service and Town of Brighton testing and hiring requirements. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Chief, anything you'd like to say?
We currently have one vacancy in the police department. This would help us by filling it. I've been served notice that we will have another vacancy within the next 2 weeks. So Officer Clausen has met all the transfer requirements that Monroe County sets, and we are good to go on the June 9th hire.
He's currently an officer in the Seneca Falls
Seneca
Department.
Falls,
He's a
town of
graduate of St. John Fisher.
He is.
We're looking forward to bringing him on board.
On June 13th, we will be doing our departmental police awards. I'll have all the new hires here and introduce them to the community that night.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer.
Aye. Why don't you do the next one too, Chris?
Next item is for approval to use the proceeds of the forfeited property fund, I believe, to purchase an additional camera to be added to the existing video security system within the Brighton Police Department. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
I believe it's a $2,000 purchase for
Yes,
surveillance camera.
by using these assets, it's budget neutral to the town of Brighton. There's certain restrictions that we have with this fund. Building security and surveillance is one of them, and this would be an upgrade to an area of concern that I have.
And we did discuss it in the Finance Committee as well. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute all contracts and/or agreements associated with the due diligence review of the proposed acquisition of approximately 26.3 acres adjacent to Buckland Park. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
As we discussed at our last meeting, the town has signed a purchase agreement to buy this land, 26.3 acres approximately, immediately east of Buckland Park. Actually, if you take a walk down Westfall Road, you'll see a fence line that comes up to Westfall Road just west of Bonnie Bray. And that line, more or less, is the property line, the easternmost property line of our newest acquisition. It's land that, as you know, the open space acquisition plan had recommended for purchase. We've now had the opportunity to do so. As many people have told me, they saw my description that this land will cost you a latte a year, less than $5.50 per year for the average homeowner to get what is really an important parcel of land to add on to Buckland Park.
What's the total going to be now, Brighton Parks?
Well,
In general,
Buckland
5
Park
days?
will be 147 acres. That will be our biggest park. And the town-wide park system of owned land will be over 520, about 525 acres, I believe.
Okay, we're at 500, and this will add that extra 20. It's
And
remarkable,
these,
given how little we've had. We started with 20 years ago.
that's right. The biggest piece of land, really wasn't owned, and we've bought a lot since then.
Yeah.
Ken, anything you want to add to that? These are, some of the due diligence and routine in the purchase of land.
Yeah, the resolution itself goes to some of the costs that the town will incur to do proper inspections, to make sure that we know what we're getting. We're presently undertaking title review. We're presently undertaking ordering a survey. This land, this 26.3 acres, is actually a carve-out of a larger parcel owned by Faith Temple. And so we have to have a survey done of exactly what it is that we are getting. And we've received some documentation from Faith Temple and their attorneys to review that Mike and I are currently going over.
Thanks. Okay, we have a motion and a second on that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason,
Yes, the
another
next
finance matter.
Next matter seeks approval of various Parks Department budget transfers to support equipment purchase and some minor park facility repairs. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Again, this was discussed in finance. We're able to get wood chips at no cost that we use down in Corbett's Glen. That frees up some of our Corbett's Glen money to use for some of these relatively small but still important Buckland Park equipment and maintenance matters. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Finally, we have for your consideration the appointment of Amanda Dreer to the Historic Preservation Commission. Robin?
On the matter regarding the appointment of a particular person, Amanda Dreer, to the Historic Preservation Board, I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Several of us had a chance to interview her, and including our chair, Jerry Ludwig. We're excited. As when we tell anybody that comes in and applies, we are so grateful. Our volunteer boards are so important to the work we do in Brighton. If we didn't have wonderful, talented people like Amanda lives in one of our designated town landmarks. If we didn't have people like her and people like, we had Dennis here tonight and Ray Warwick here tonight, who both volunteer on a couple of our committees. We have very talented people and very giving people, and we're grateful for that, and we're certainly grateful for Amanda. Motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason? Oh, no,
we're
actually, this is where matters of the supervisor. It says expenses and revenue, but of course, that's mine, and all we'll be doing is receiving and filing the monthly report, month ending April 30th, which you have.
Then I'll make a motion, we receive and file the expense and revenue report for the month ending April 30th, 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, and as always, our finance director, Paula Parker, gives a more thorough report quarterly, so you'll have to stick around a few months to get her next report. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. In terms of other matters, I already did give the reminder, about Memorial Day. I mentioned the lawn and garden debris and the work that's being done. I do want to talk a little bit about chip sealing. The town is throughout the early part of the season, one of our major areas of attention is road work. And we have earlier this month chip sealed a number of miles of roads in the town of Brighton. Chip sealing is part of what is approximately a 30-year process. When we repave a road, approximately 10 years afterwards, the road will be starting to show some deterioration. Rather than having to do a whole repaving again, we chip seal. Chip seal involves laying down some hot oil and a whole bunch of gravel on top of it. And for the first couple days, people often say, oh my goodness, what are you doing? I had a paved street, now I have a gravel road. But it is a concept that really communities use throughout this area. It dramatically extends the life of a paved surface and is also dramatically less expensive than actually, milling and repaving a street. We lay that gravel down, we roll it with our big roller, we sweep it with the Pelican sweeper that you see at different times of the year, sometimes clean the streets after leaves or debris have been picked up, but this time of year, it's primarily sweeping up excess gravel and stone from chip sealing jobs. We'll do that a couple of times over the couple of weeks after we chip seal a street, and we're chip sealing streets across the town, as we do every year. And in a couple of weeks, that surface is a hard surface. All of that gravel has either been swept away or compacted into the oil, and what you have is a surface that will hold up for about another 10 years when we go through and chip seal it again. So that's 20 years after the paving, and then 10 years after that, and these numbers are approximate. We look at the condition of the streets, depending on drainage conditions and the like. Some are going to last a little longer than others. But in about 30 years, we'll go back, and then we will do that full milling and repaving the surface again. So that cycle goes on all of the town roads, and we have a lot of miles of town roads here in Brighton. So our crews get very busy this time of year. And I will tell you, Mike, I'm very pleased. People seem to be responding to it very well. And I know you've talked to some folks, and I appreciate that, and they always appreciate getting that explanation. So thank you. Other thing I just want to mention, before the meeting tonight, Chief Henderson and I were over at Seton Catholic School for the DARE program graduation. DARE is a fifth grade program that currently the Brighton public schools are not participating in, but several of our private schools in town do, and Seton is one of them. Officer Renee Fisher, who has been the DARE officer for the Brighton Police Department for a number of years. Although DARE stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education, DARE has really morphed into much more than just drug and alcohol prevention. It addresses other important issues for young people, like bullying, like cyberbullying, the kind of issues, unfortunately, that we're seeing just in terms of how people react to one another that can sometimes manifest themselves into much more serious activities as kids grow older. So it's great to see these kids. We hear them, some of them read reports that they've done, their parents are there, and on top of everything else, those fifth graders now have met a police officer. And that brings the whole police concept a little closer to reality. As we all remember, our teachers growing up, they weren't people. If you saw them in a grocery store, it was like, oh my goodness, See, well, that's the same way with these police officers. Renee goes in to the school. I tell the story, it's a true story. And when my oldest daughter was in the program, Kathy Icavangelo, a former Brighton police officer, was the DARE officer. And after she graduated later that summer, the family went away on vacation. And Teresa came up to me and said, "Daddy, can Officer Icavangelo go with us on vacation this year?" That's indicative of the relationships that those kids build up with a police officer. And fifth grade is certainly not too soon for that to happen. So Mark, thank you, and thank you, Renee, for serving as our DARE officer. That's all I have. Matters of the clerk. Matters of the attorney. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip over. Matters of the clerk. I was right the first time.
Ken has spoken enough for both of us. I have nothing tonight.
Matters of the board.
I wanted to pass along a compliment. A colleague of mine, a friend, thought at the very last minute that he would challenge his assessment review, or his assessment. He came in for review, thinking that it was going to be a dreary kind of governmental bureaucratic moment, spend hours and hours at it, and he said, well, he had to wait about 5 minutes, and was very taken by how courteous and pleasant people were during the process, not the least bit adversarial. Listened to his information, which he developed himself just off of Zillow and so forth, and expected that he would get nowhere without an appraiser and such, but that what he submitted was taken very seriously and respectfully, and this is without having gotten an answer yet. He wanted to pass along the compliment. Now, if it goes the wrong way, we'll see what he has to say about it.
That's good to hear. It does speak well to Elaine Ainsworth and Sue Wentworth, as well as, again, the volunteers who serve on our Board of Assessment Review, because they're really the ones that are listening and interacting to people. There was one guy that got a lot of media publicity yesterday because he brought a goose in. And that was kind of silly and I think really trivialized the process. But what we really have here are community volunteers who listen thoughtfully, and we have residents who take the time, as you described, to pull information together with help from the assessor. Our website tries to give tips on how best to do this. This, of course, has been a process, particularly so this year, given the revaluation. We had the informal reviews. An awful lot of people went through that process. Some were, again, as you alluded to, happy and left it at that. Some still felt their property wasn't being fairly valued. Some probably didn't participate in that process and are coming to the table now. And that's fine. And our folks do. I think our staff handles professionally, and our volunteers are just marvelous, again, in the time they give up to do the work. So please give your colleague our thanks.
They will.
Members of the board.
I did just want to highlight that our summer program brochures are out for the rec department. With the arrival of the warmer weather, we're very excited for our summer offerings to begin. Brochures are available online at the BCSC buildings, Town Hall, Brighton Memorial Library, and of course at the rec center. Both resident and non-resident registration has been ongoing at this point. Then I wanted to highlight one of our more popular events, the so-called daddy-daughter dance, but of course, parents, grandparents, friends, relatives, or others are welcome to accompany their dancer. On Thursday, June 1st, please join us for a full night of fun, laughter, dancing, and treats. Light refreshments will be served. Dancers of all ages are welcome. Dance the night away to music from all eras. You must be pre-registered for the event, and space is limited, and no registrations will be accepted at the door. Registration, again, can be done online, via mail, in person at the rec or in person at the rec department. And if you have any questions, please call our rec department.
Thanks, Robin. And you alluded, there was some discussion, entirely appropriate discussion this year about, traditionally this has been called the daddy-daughter dance, but also equally traditionally it's often grandparents, uncles. But the question came up whether non-traditional families, although even that term these days seems to me so antiquated. It's family. Families come in all forms, and there may be blood relation, there may be not, but yes, what we wanted to make clear, and what we will probably make even more clear next year as we look at the titles of these events, is that they are not gender specific, they are not particular relative specific. It's an opportunity for family members or people who are function as family members to enjoy a wonderful evening together. So with that said, I hope everybody will sign up for a great time. Any other matters of the board? I'm sorry. Hearing none, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss real estate acquisition, a personnel matter, and litigation?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Manley.
Aye. I don't anticipate coming out afterwards, so thanks for being here, everybody. Have a great evening. We'll see you at our next town board meeting, June 13, 2018, right here at 7 p.m. Have a great evening, and please remember, honor our veterans on Memorial Day. Thank you.